Help! I'm stuck in an elevator, and the man behind me just turned around. The first part of a reality-bending sci-fi series by Eat the Monolith. I guess I have some time to write this all out before I'm rescued. If I'm rescued, actually. Security be damned. That's why I even have my phone in here. I still haven't turned around. I'm too freaked out and keep looking up to see if the floor number has changed in here. And it hasn't. Somehow, I'm still going down in this elevator, while also being stuck between the 4th and 3rd floors of the building. I'll go back to when I first started noticing something weird was going on. A few weeks ago, I was leaving my office and stepped onto the elevator down to the 1st floor. This was during the furlough, so most civilians in my job had gone home. So it was weird that someone in civilian clothes was in the elevator at all, let alone the fact he just stood there with his back to me the entire time. We waited in silence, not speaking, and I didn't look at him. Didn't really consider it at the time, and when the doors opened and I left, I barely registered how strange that had really been. As I badged out of the building, I did notice, however, that the man seemingly had never left the elevator. I shrugged and headed home. Then the next day, as I stepped onto the elevator to go upstairs, I noticed that man again. He was already on the elevator as the doors had opened, and stood there, silent. The walls of the elevator were brushed still, so I couldn't see any sort of reflection, and he just stood unrealistically still. People normally sway or move as we breathe or as the elevator shifts, but this man was silent, frozen, like a statue. I shuddered and left the elevator once the doors opened. I mentioned it offhandedly to one of the officers I worked with, but he just waved the problem away. "It's probably some prank. We did that all the time back in MXS," he said, shrugging. "Yeah, but that's maintenance. This is supposed to be a little more dignified, right?" I asked, following him to his desk. The lieutenant sat down, his chair spinning slightly as he turned his computer on and leaned back. "You'd think, but people around here can get a little crazy, man. You know that." He gestured vaguely around. "Between the furlough and the TS stuff we gotta deal with, you can expect folks to have a little fun." So that was that. And I went to my desk and did my job like I was supposed to. Then, when I left for lunch, there he was again. The same man in the elevator. Now, my building has 4 elevators, and I never use the same one twice in a row, because I just don't get that lucky. Yet this man was always in the elevator, no matter which one I picked, and it was starting to get on my nerves. I had half a mind to say something. I didn't. I walked out when the doors opened and hurried out. Then, when I returned from my break, he was there again, still in the elevator, back still turned. I paused at the elevator as the doors hung open. Someone pushed by me and walked in, giving me a strange look. Go ahead. I'll take the stairs," I said, turning and walking further down the hall to the stairwell. And so for the next few days I used the stairs, ignoring the elevator completely. Slowly, the man inside left my mind, and I was in a state of blissful ignorance. The average and preferred state of being for anyone in the military. I talked to my wife about what I had seen. And she didn't entirely believe me either. So yesterday I made a decision. It was an awful and stupid choice, but I needed to know if what I saw was real. I would bring my phone with me into my office building. Now you may think, oh, that's not that bad. But I work in SCIF, or a sensitive, compartmented information facility in the Air Force. And you just aren't allowed to bring anything that can broadcast a wireless signal into the building. No phones, no Bluetooth. There are exceptions, like radios. But anything that can connect wirelessly to the internet is a no-go. But I needed to get a picture of the thing. Of this weird man who always stood in the elevator, who was there whenever it opened, and who no one else seemed to ever see. So I brought my phone. I rationalized to myself that proof was worth the risk of losing my job, or at least my top secret clearance. I also determined that I would need to get the photo at the end of my day, so I could book it as fast as possible to the door, in case someone saw me, or in case the man in the elevator decided to, turn around and attack me. So in the morning I took the stairs, and in the afternoon for lunch I took the stairs. Then 4 o'clock came around, and the elevator doors opened. My heart hammered in my throat as I stepped inside with the man, whose back was still turned, who still stood as frozen and motionless as ever. The doors closed as I pressed the button for the bottom floor, and the elevator started to move. The silence around me was like cotton, wrapped around my ears as I fumbled with my phone in my pocket. I lifted the device up, turned on the camera, and pressed the button. My phone clicked. The photo was saved. I let go of a breath that had been trapped inside me and dropped my phone back in my pocket. Then I noticed something. The elevator was still moving, but the floor counter above me hadn't gone down to 3. I was still on the 4th floor. Now, I am a trained airman of the great United States Air Force. But that doesn't mean I'm made of steel or anything. After all, I'm just an admin troop. I do paperwork, I sit at a desk. So naturally I started to panic. I pressed the open door button. I pressed the 1st floor, the 2nd, and 3rd. I even pressed the button for the 5th floor and the emergency call button. Nothing happened. Then I felt it. A chill down the back of my neck, like something was looking at me. Without turning around, without even moving my eyes to get a look, by only looking at the vague shapes reflected in the door in front of me, I knew the man had turned around. I froze. My heart hammered in my throat, and my fingers felt swollen and clammy. I was suddenly very aware of temperature, and my winter jacket felt like it was constricted around me. I dropped my backpack to the floor and tried to steady my breathing with a trick my dad had taught me. Breathe in for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Repeat until I have control. I kept my eyes closed as I focused, my heart rate decreasing and my breath evening out. I opened my eyes again and something clicked in me. I was an airman. How did the creed go again? I was a warrior? I chuckled to myself for a second. What warrior I was. Flying a desk all day, then getting scared when a mysterious and admittedly creepy man in a suit turns around to look at me in a supernaturally long elevator ride. But I could do this. I hope so, at least. What do you want? I said aloud, putting my voice out into the empty silence around me. All that answered was the gentle whirring of motors as the elevator continued to move. I gave it a few seconds, then tried again. Who are you? I asked. Still nothing. Why me? I asked. Still nothing. I sighed and sat down against the wall, making sure the man in the corner wasn't really in my line of sight. I wasn't too certain, but I figured that if I looked at him, something awful would happen. I unzipped my bag, rummaging around for anything to do, anything to put my focus on. But my habit of carrying around empty bags was starting to bite me in the ass, as I realized all I had was a notebook and pen. So I started writing. I wrote about my day, about what had happened, and about what to do if they found my body in here. I wrote this message on paper first, then I transcribed it here after, because I figured that if the elevator never stopped, they'd never find my body, and I at least wanted someone out there to know what I had done and what had happened to me. I messaged my wife. The signal in here is really awful, but I managed to get something out. She's busy, so she probably won't see it until I'm gone. But I hope she knows I love her. I hope she knows I'd fight for her. I stand by that. I stand by what I'm going to do next. See, I have a theory. It's a bit half-baked, but flying by the seat of your pants is kind of a military specialty. Not all of us are geniuses, or huge buff men waiting to shoot enemy soldiers. A lot of us have families, and a lot of us say we'd fight for them. But how often do we get the chance? Would you do anything different? If your life were on the line, and you wanted to see your wife one last time because you forgot to give her a goodbye kiss that morning? I would hope not. Because that's what makes us human, right? The ability to sacrifice everything for the chance. The hope. The tiny, little, minuscule iota of belief that we can make it out of anything and still be alive on the other side for love. So I'm gonna fight. I always said I would. I'll rip and tear and take this thing down. My thought is that this guy, this stupid elevator man, is what's holding me hostage. Maybe he doesn't like that I took a picture. And sure, maybe I shouldn't have, but I needed to know. Now I do. I figure if I take this guy out, the elevator will stop. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. At the very least, if he's dead, then I don't gotta worry anymore about what he's going to do to me if I turn around or something. So I guess I'll see you on the other side then. It's like the Air Force song. We live in fame or down in flame. I guess this is my moment. I'll never falter, and I will not fall. Let's do this. End of story. Once again, just want to say a big thank you to to Eat the Monolith for allowing me to read your story. You can find their Reddit and a link to their story below in the description. In any matter, this has been Dread Thread, and I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.